Now, on the last point, just on the relationship of the regulatory bodies and the voluntary associations, you said the relationship. So, okay, so the VA is, in other words, from what I've captured you, is that they're supposed to communicate with the regulatory bodies, and if there are issues, with their members. Now, on that point, why does it seem that other VAs have more influence on the regulatory bodies than others? And the example that has been made is the one of the South African Institute for Civil Engineers. Seemingly, the South African Institute for Civil Engineers have more influence on its regulatory body compared to other regulatory bodies that exist in the same profession. Is it possible? Perhaps if I can just expand, is it possible that some VAs have more influence on their regulatory bodies than others?
Okay, Bonke, the question was directed to you.
Well, I'm neither a member of SAICI nor of EXA, and neither am I an engineer. Mlondi is an engineer.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is being recorded. I'm not going to try and be a spokesperson. Okay. No, yes, I'll try and answer. No. I think you make a very good example, Mlondi. The SAICI, I think from the observations I've made, they are an institution. It's a South African institution for civil engineering or of civil engineering. And they've been around for many years. They've been well funded, and I think they're well managed. And they probably predate the establishment of EXA. I'm not sure. Historically, I don't know. And it may create the impression that you refer to. Within the engineering fraternity, or even in the built environment in general, I'm not aware of an organization, if I can use that word, that is as strong as SAICI is in terms of its capability, capacity, and all of that. So perhaps that is why they've been around a long time, and they've done a lot of things, and they're very prominent, visible. So, and if you consider that under EXA, civil engineering is not the only discipline that EXA oversees. So where the electrical, your people, mechanical, etc. So that's my layman's answer to your question. I don't know to what extent then the impression is created that the VA is more powerful than the EXA, or stronger, whatever the English is. But also we must remember that VAs by design are special interest groups. And what do special interest groups do? They lobby on behalf of their members, whether it's to legislation or through whatever, but they are a lobby group, and so that's one of the reasons they exist, and therefore they will do more lobbying than a regulatory body. Regulatory body acts according to the legislation that establishes it, and that those parameters are very, very strictly and narrowly defined for a reason. That's my take. That's the best answer I can come up with. Maybe Nomvula and Petra can add to that and enrich us with their wisdom as well.
Well, Petra, do you have any views? Is this is it possible, without getting into specifics, but is it possible that a VA can be seen to be a lot stronger than a regulatory body?
To be honest, Tammy, I don't really have have that view. I know there are some really strong VAs in our region, but I represent an organization that is international. We're a global organization, so we don't really get involved with the local, when I say politics or that kind of thing. So I'm not really a fan with those kind of power struggles and things that go on. So yeah, I can't really comment on that.
Thanks. Nomvula, I think you have something to say.
Yeah, I'm not commenting on who's got more power than who, but I'll rather pin it down to legislation. I'm laughing from the CBE guidelines. There's actually a very distinct differentiation between regulatory body and professional body. So I'll just read the two most important. The first one says a regulatory body acts in the interest of the public and has processes open and accountable to the public and the profession. But the professional body acts mainly in the interest of the professions. Although independent, in terms of the Act, it is for us to be VAs, you have to be recognized by that particular regulatory body that you are associated to, because the aim is not to have different processes and functions, but rather complementary functions. So although with the regulatory body is regulated, is got specific mandates, and I think across all built environment council, they've got specific 13 mandates, but the voluntary associations then become what is the implementary arm. For example, you will find that when it comes to regulatory bodies, it says that the regulatory bodies will determine the standards of what is continuing professional development, meaning what is good for the registered persons in terms of regulatory bodies and for the members. But they may not do that without consultation with the voluntary association, because the voluntary associations are then the implementing arm. So for me, really, the functions have to be complementary. And what I could say, actually, I command that voluntary association because it really acts in the interest of the members. The members might have a different view. This is just me, an outsider, looking in. They strongly lobby, they are everywhere. If you can look now in terms of the infrastructure roll-up plan and whatever, the VAs of the engineers are there. So that is what voluntary associations are supposed to be, a strong lobby group, but also complementing the regulatory body to ensure that the functions that the regulatory body is supposed to implement are then also implemented where possible through the voluntary associations, because the voluntary associations, to exist, they have to be associated to a specific regulatory body. And where there's dual functions in terms of their members, then they belong to more than one regulatory body. So I think we should see it more in terms of a complementary role. And we know how it is. Rules are there, are written. But if personalities changes how things are to be implemented, I don't think that we can then conclude to say this is the case, because sometimes it's also based on stronger personalities. But also it could also be based on people becoming impatient where they need help from the specific stakeholders and they can't help but take over if they have to.
Yeah, so it's about the lobbying. I mean, I think as you and Bonke have identified, a VA's job is to lobby. So the longer, the stronger you are in that skill, and the more visible you are, you seem to be deemed taking over from the regulatory body. But on paper, that's not the case.